Hey everyone! Welcome to today's video. It's that time of month again to set up a new month in my bullet journal. Today I'll be setting up November in my B5 Archer and Olive dotted journal. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and let's go ahead and jump right in. I typically like to start off with my cover painting. I have a sheet of my B Paper Company Bee Inspired watercolor paper taped down onto my acrylic clipboard with a light sketch done in pencil. For my November theme, I decided to revisit a theme that I hadn't done in a couple of years now, which are crystals. I've always loved painting crystals since they can be as simple or as intricate as you'd like. In the past, I've typically done purple or blue colored crystals, but now that we're well into the autumn season, I thought that going for a warmer and earthy shade would be more appropriate. Inspired by fire quartz, I mixed together burnt sienna and English red to achieve this warm and rustic color for the crystals. When painting crystals, I like to use a wet on wet technique where I'll dab spots of clean water onto the painting first, and then I'll go in with the color and touch the brush onto the wet areas. This will allow the paint to diffuse and spread out and create an interesting organic effect that is sure to look different every time. To add some more visual interest and color to the piece, I decided to add some leaves surrounding the crystals. I used a few different shades of green from my collection of Archer and Olive Acrylograph paint pens to add some variability in the colors. It's been quite a few years since I last used these acrylograph paint pens in my bullet journal, so I figured I'd use them in this piece to help contrast against the watercolor crystals with bolder and more opaque flourishes. Since I was already using paint pens, I decided to use my black Uni Posca paint pen in the extra fine nib to outline the crystals. I'm not going to lie, I was kinda regretting this decision as soon as I started outlining the crystals. I felt like the black was a little too harsh, and I probably should have opted for a thinner fine liner instead. However, I decided to embrace the bold outlines and continued on with the piece. Taking my Finetec metallic watercolors, I'm using my favorite gold watercolor to paint in the crescent moon as well as some stars scattered throughout the piece. I thought that this paired very nicely with the warm colors of the crystals and introduced a new texture in a subtle manner. I also splattered some of the gold paint around the piece just to enhance the watercolor effect. Now I'm using the bullet nib of a brown zebra mildliner and writing November in a cursive font. I'm going back and thickening the downstrokes to create the faux calligraphy effect, and then I'm slightly darkening the top half of each letter for a gradient look. This is definitely where I wish I would have learned my lesson from outlining the crystals from earlier. The black paint pen unfortunately was not the best decision when it came to outlining the letters, since some of the upstrokes were much too thin for this method. I really didn't want to restart this piece though, so I decided to move on. For the finishing touch, I'm just taking my white Uniball Signo gel pen and adding highlights to the crystals and to the word November. Now that the cover painting is complete and dry, I'm just pasting it into my bullet journal and moving on to the monthly spread beside it. Taking a Pentel Fude Touch brush pen in a light brown color, I'm starting off by hand lettering November and going back over the tops of each letter for that gradient effect like before. For the monthly calendar, I'm using a soft olive zebra mildliner and outlining the boxes while rounding off the corners. I thought this would add to the gentle and soft aesthetic of this month's theme. For my monthly challenge box, I wanted to include the gold metallic accents again, and decided to outline that box with the metallic gold watercolor from before. I'm also taking a terracotta zebra mildliner to outline my brain dump box at the bottom of the page. To fill in the days of the month, I wanted to incorporate my brown Sakura Pigma Micron fineliner that I've had for years. It's a lovely warm brown shade that is one of my absolute favorite colors, but I struggle to find ways to use it since I typically opt for a black fineliner when setting up my months. However, I thought that this would be the perfect time to use it since it matched perfectly with the colors of the crystals. For the decorations, I added a few small crystals scattered throughout the page. I outlined them with a black fineliner and added a few branches of leaves around the page as well. Finally, I included a couple strips of washi tape at the bottom. And now, my November monthly spread is complete and ready to use. Although I had a few hiccups with the cover painting, I think the delicate monthly page balances everything out, and I'm much more pleased with how everything looks now that the whole spread is complete. Moving on to the next spread in this setup, my monthly doodle spread. I'm first taking a warm terracotta Tombow dual brush pen to hand letter November at the top of the spread. Again, I'm going over the top half of each letter for that gradient appearance. For the doodle boxes, I'm alternating colors that were used in the previous spread to add some visual interest. I'm just incorporating different shades of green, brown, and the black paint pen from before. I didn't think of this until later, but it would have been very interesting to include the metallic gold watercolor in this lineup as well. Now I'm outlining my monthly favorites and memories boxes, and then labeling them using the light brown brush pen from before. Once that's done, I'm going in and numbering each daily box with the black fineliner. Taking that same fineliner, I'm outlining the word November and then adding highlights using the white gel pen from earlier. Now that that's done, I'm just adding some more decorations around this spread and incorporating more of the month's theme. I painted a few more clusters of crystals as well as another crescent moon and stars. This month's featured lyric is from a new song by Snow Patrol called Hold Me in the Fire, which I thought was quite fitting due to the fire quartz, and I've been really enjoying this song lately. Taking the green paint pens from before, I'm going in and adding branches of leaves around the crystals similar to the cover painting. And with that, my November doodle spread is complete. I love the subtle gold metallic accents and how they contrast with the bold matte acrylic paint pens. Finally, I'll be setting up my first weekly spread of November. I'm starting off by loosely dabbing some brown watercolors in the top left box. Then I'm using the gold metallic watercolors to outline the monthly challenge box below it. For my trackers below, I'm outlining the boxes using various markers from the previous spread to continue incorporating the monthly theme and colors. I'm also outlining my daily boxes using different shades of green and brown for that rustic autumnal feel. And lastly, I'm outlining my expense trackers on the right. Taking my white gel pen and brown fineliner again, I'm just including the month and week in the top left box. And now I'm just going through and labeling each one of my boxes, including my habit, weight, and mood trackers, my daily boxes, notes, and topics, as well as my personal, joint, and credit card expense trackers. Lastly, I'm splattering some of the metallic gold watercolors along the top and bottom margins of the spread for some added decoration. Now, my weekly spread is all set up. Here is a flip through of today's spreads. Thank you so much for watching, I truly appreciate it. Let me know what theme you're doing for November, I'd love to hear from you. As always, take care and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!